Welcome to another episode of Performance TV. On today's show, Robert from Stage 8 gives us the lowdown on locking fasteners. We're overhauling a suspension plus getting the most out of your diesel engine. Strap on your seatbelt. Performance TV is next.
Okay, we just go ahead and fit this on down in here. Hey everybody, welcome to this week's edition of Performance TV. Robert's joining us from Stage 8 Locking Fasteners, and this gentleman's getting his very first set of headers.
Yeah, this is Kenny Bradley's car, and he was talking to his friends, wanted to put a set of headers on his car, and found out that the number one problem was loose header bolts. So he's decided to go ahead and do it right the first time.
Yes.
Put in a pair of genuine Stage 8 locking header bolts, so he won't spend the next few weekends tightening his header bolts.
That and, you know, listening to that exhaust leak, he'll be able to just to enjoy the car. And these, once he puts them in, they're not going to rust because they're made of what, Robert?
They are actually a grade 8 fastener with a duplex nickel finish. Prevents corrosion. They look nice and shiny, almost like a chrome, but it's not.
And what makes Stage 8 locking fasteners work so well that we're not going to have to worry about exhaust leaks?
I'll show you. It's an active mechanical locking fastener. So if you see right here, Kathy, we've got a groove in the top of the bolt. The bolt will go in and get torqued to spec. Then the locking retainer, this being a small block Chevy, takes a very small retainer, goes over the head of the bolt just like a box wrench like that.
Okay.
And that'll fit right against the tube of the header there. And what we'll do is we'll just slide an E-clip in to hold it down. That will prevent that bolt from rotating even the first degree. And if you get 5 degrees of counter rotation, you've lost 50% of your clamp value.
Oh, well, you know what? Not going to have to worry about that on this car.
Not at all.
And of course, the first thing you wanted to do would be to put our outer two ones in first so we can easily slide the gasket in.
That's it. And let me just, there we go. I think we've got both of them in. Slide it out a little bit. You ought to be able to fit the gasket in there now.
All right. Let's see, I've got a good gap back here. I might have to pull this one up just a little bit. Okay, Robert, have the gasket in. Now we can start just doing some of these finger tight. Wow, you know what? This one looks like it might be kind of a pain to get a socket on.
You know, on these small block Chevys, they really can be. But I'll show you a trick for that, Kathy. This is what we call a double hex head.
Okay.
So you can use a 3/16 Allen with a ball socket on it or a ball connector so you can swivel.
Okay.
And it helps it go in much easier.
So that's why we have this special little concoction tool laid out over here.
Yes, notice that, and let me show you how that works. That goes right in here, and you can just spin it in. And then, of course, we'll just throw a wrench on it to get it from the outside and put the final torque on it.
Well, that makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because you're never going to get a socket in there. And even if you tried, you're going to be scratching up the headers and the finish and everything else. So once we have them in, do we need to have them at a certain torque?
Yes, they should be torqued to about 22 to 25 foot-pounds.
Which is really
it's not that much.
Not a whole lot at all. So once we have it in and we have it torqued, what's our next step in installing the Stage 8 locking fastener?
Well, the next step would be to put on the locking retainer. And there's also a trick to this. If you can see here, the line of the cutout is not even with the line of the arc that goes around the retainer. It's up a little on one side.
Right.
That's on purpose. It's offset 3.5 degrees, just like a box end wrench. So if it doesn't fit, flip it over and you have more positions.
Okay.
Okay, so this is going to fit on here. Well, looks like we might have to modify this too. And that's another common issue with these. If you look at any of our packaging, we explain that you can modify the retainer up to this with a pair of dikes or a grinder. Okay, Kathy, we're back. We've modified our retainer. See how that fits?
Yes.
And then if you look, it'll actually slide right on nice and easy now. All we need to do is put our clip in there. We'll put the clip in. Whoops. And I have one other trick to show you. If you can get your clip on just like that.
Bet you need these.
Thank you, Kathy. Take yourself a pair of needle nose pliers. It'll go right in the center of that Allen hole. And bam.
Oh man, that makes that so
Yeah,
so
see how
much
nice and easy
easier.
that is? All right, that is set.
And Stage 8 doesn't only have our fasteners like this, but if you wanted to do studs, you could also do that too.
We absolutely have modified nuts for studs, and it works the same way. It's got a groove on the outside. You just put your header on your studs.
Sure.
You know, put your bolt on top, tighten them down.
Very familiar with those.
All right, should we get the rest of this stuff done?
Yeah,
and this guy's going to be happy with our job, I'm sure.
I want to try your little special trick tool here.
Sure.
I like that. Okay, so we don't need to go too far on that.
No, we'll go ahead and torque it with a wrench. All right, Kathy, there's not a lot left to do here.
Well, what else do I need to know about these bolts, Robert?
Well, one of the things that you should pay attention to is whether or not you're installing an aluminum or cast iron heads.
Oh yeah, good point.
Cast iron heads typically take a 3/4 inch bolt, which is what we're using here, but aluminum heads typically have a 1-inch bolt, a bit more grip length on an aluminum head.
You know, a lot of these headers that we're finding nowadays come with stage 8 locking fasteners.
You know, you're right. Cook's headers comes with stage 8, and there's some others out there that I can't mention quite yet, but you'll hear about them early in the year. And it's really nice to get a complete package to an end user that has the right bolt. A lot of the bolts that come with headers were 5-cent Chinese bolts, and they just they vibrate right out.
Oh yeah, you don't want to use that stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like, because you're going to eventually have an issue with an exhaust leak.
You know, for a couple more bucks, do it right the first time, and you're going to be happy with your job the whole time you have the vehicle.
You know, and not just our header applications, but you can find stage 8 for all kinds of stuff. And you know what? I think I might have something else. You want to hang around a little bit today, maybe come back a little bit later in the show?
Sure, I'd love to. We can do turbos or collectors.
Oh, you just never know what we may have next, but you will find out here real soon on Performance TV right after this.
This edition of Performance TV is being brought to you by Intech Trailers, because there is a difference. Heights Performance, engineered performance for over 30 years. Muscle Products, the strength in lubrication. And by Dustless Blasting, it's the future of surface preparation.
Welcome back to Performance TV. We know all today's vehicles are controlled by electronics, but what if you have a vehicle that's a couple years old and it's mechanical fuel injection? We've got a product today from Attitude Performance Products that's going to give you that adjustability. And Casey, tell me about the Attitude Adjuster. How does this work and what does it do?
The adjuster gives you full functionality of fuel control out of your P7100 by the simple turn from the cab of the adjuster dial.
Now it's going to slide back and forth, and it allows that to open up, give it more fuel or take fuel away.
Exactly. So here we're at setting 1 on the adjuster. On the dial, clockwise, 1 full revolution takes us to full rack, taking it from a grocery getter to a strip monster.
So you don't have to use all the fuel the pump will put out all the time. You're able to adjust it, make a mechanical pump adjustable.
Exactly. So from that, we've seen customers' reviews coming in at seeing anything from 27.4 miles per gallon. And then also with 37-inch tires, they can take the dial up and burn the tires loose.
Right, going to give you more power.
Yep.
You can turn it down, give you better fuel economy, lower exhaust temperatures, all sorts of adjustability.
Exactly.
You've taken it one step further. Not only is it adjustable with that, now you have different profiles, so you can actually fine-tune it.
Exactly. So from here with the profiles, depending on the customization of the truck and the customer's needs and their the application, they can go from the profile number 5 and number 6, 8, and 10.
You can play with it, kind of get it to what you're liking. You can do it right from in the cab, on the go?
On the go.
Oh man, now tell me about this. I like billet. What are these?
These are billet delivery valve holders. The stock ones they have a little bit smaller bore hole. These ones come with a .91 bore hole.
So it will allow more fuel flow to the pump.
More fuel flow from the pump, and it customizes the pump. It looks a lot better, more durable delivery valve
If you're going
holder.
to open it up and use more fuel, you want to be able to get it into the pump and not let the pump work so hard. It's going to make your pump last a little longer probably too.
Exactly.
Now tell me, what's this little thing on the end of the pump here?
This is the billet rack cap, which is a product everybody should have on their pumps if they don't have it already. It's a simple 20 horsepower gain by just
What do you mean
unscrewing
20
this.
horsepower? How does that work?
From this, you can see inside here, the rack cap, it's recessed a tad more than stock, and so it allows more rack travel than stock.
Right, the stock one is flat, screws in there, it wouldn't allow it to travel all the way, you just recess that?
You got it.
Oh man, that's simple and easy horsepower
Everybody
right there.
should
huh?
have one of these.
Now, not only does Attitude have the fuel products, what else do we make? We got some other items here I see.
We also got the billet freeze plugs, which you can see here, there's a stock one.
That's pretty common, just a stock old freeze plug.
Yep.
I've seen them pop out before.
Oh yeah. Antifreeze on the side of the road,
Yeah.
terrible, you're shut down. This one will not pop out, it's billet. You can see the structure of this one,
Got an O-ring on it.
Yeah.
It's going to seal, it's going to stay in the block.
solid.
Now, this is for the side of the block,
Side of the block.
and you're telling me this is a freeze plug as well?
This is a freeze plug for the back of the block.
That's a pretty hefty duty freeze plug.
Yeah, this is great.
And it bolts in. I know that's not coming out.
Yeah, easy bolt in, you don't have to remove the transmission. And again, instead of having an engine failure on the side of the road, antifreeze going all over, these are another must-have when doing an engine build.
And Attitude products to me they seem like no-brainers. These are pretty simple solutions. What do we have here? These are small, but you say very important.
Again, yeah, we can't keep these on the shelf. These are the oil squirters for the Cummins, the 12 valves, and then also for the common rails. So here on these, it's made out of a billet aluminum and versus the stock plastic.
Plastic. Now, to me, a piece of plastic in an engine doesn't seem very smart. They've got to get hot, they got to disform, they got to melt. When that happens, your engine's going to break. You say $6 a piece, going to save the entire engine. The billet is not going to shrink, it's not going to expand, it's going to be there for life, right?
Yeah, whenever the engine's out of the engine bay, this is a must-have when you're doing an engine build. And again, like you said, high temps, you know, performance modifications, we're getting more power, more boost, hotter temperatures. These are going to last the life of the engine.
Why do they put plastic in it? Why didn't they start with you?
That's a good question.
Now, what are these? There's two different sizes. What are these?
Actually, for a Duramax and Cummins.
But what do they do? Tell me about this product right here.
These will replace the stock fuel pressure relief valves. These will maintain the fuel pressure on the rail. So, you know, looking for performance.
Holds pressure.
Yeah.
Startup, we drop pressure. Yep. This will hold and maintain pressure.
Hold and maintain pressure. Everybody should have one of these on their truck.
I tell you what, Attitude Performance Products. If you have a mechanical fuel injection, you need an adjuster. We'll be right back with more Performance TV.
Performance TV coming to you from Borla Commerce Park.
Welcome back to Performance TV. A couple of the more popular things these days is autocross and pro touring cars, and in order to do that, you need a good handling car. That takes an independent rear suspension. Well, I've got Mike from Heights Automotive Group. Mike, you guys are the first ones to come out with the independent rear suspension for this third generation Camaro and Firebirds.
That's correct, Tommy. We just introduced this year. I introduced it at the SEMA show. This fits 82 to 92 Camaro and Firebirds, and it turns these cars into a road race animal.
Now, you and I are both drag racers. I know about going straight. This is for turning and handling. Why would somebody want to put this on their car?
Autocross is getting bigger and bigger all the time, and we decided to come up with something that's going to enhance the handling of these cars, and this is the best way to do it.
What's it take to put one of these in? Now, this is basically a bolt-in system.
For the most part, it is. I mean, once you remove all your stock stuff, move your brake lines out of the way and everything, there's a few panels that have some spot welds right up in here, as you can see. Really easy to get them off. The saddles fit right up over the original frame rails. You've got to do a minor amount of welding, and then the rest of it basically is all bolt-in. So a couple of guys with hand tools in a weekend.
And this is a complete unit. It comes with everything we see right here.
It comes with everything you see. It's based off a 9-inch Ford. This is our patented cast aluminum rear end. There's an optional fabricated rear end, as us drag racers like to use. Comes with 35 spline axles, Curry center section with posit traction. There's plenty of upgrades. You can upgrade to Willwood brakes. We have single and double adjustable shocks. It comes standard with the single adjustable shocks. But basically, when you buy the kit, you get everything you need to put this in the car.
All right, well, we've got most of this installed. We need to finish it up. Where do we want to go next? We want to start with the A-arm and finish this up?
Yeah, we'll probably end up putting the bottom A-arm on and then hook up the shock and everything, so we can,
we'll put the bolts in this
have that right now.
Now, the neat thing about Heights, this is all made in the U.S., right?
Everything on this car is made in the USA. We don't farm anything out. We operate our own CNC machines and laser machines. We have two full-time engineers in-house. We use a ferro arm to scan the bottom of the car to get the exact suspension coordinates and then go to work from there.
Now, this is a project that, you know, guys can do at home if they want. It's very minimal fabrication.
It's a lot easier to have a hoist, obviously, but you can do it on jack stands and with a floor jack, two guys. Like I said, basically, as you can see, it pretty much bolts together.
All right, got that back one lined up. You slide the bolt in there. You can take this car, which these are becoming more affordable nowadays because there's plenty of them sitting around.
This particular car we bought for $5,000 on eBay, and the shock deals, we build them all in-house. We machine everything in-house. We have an in-house dyno. Every one of these shocks is checked for performance before it leaves the building.
Slide this up.
Might have to push that in a little bit. Yeah.
I'll shove it to you.
Gotta go back just a little bit.
Now, you guys make independent rear suspensions for a lot of different vehicles, not just this third generation.
Absolutely. This is our newest design, but we have them for early and mid-year Novas. We have them for Mustangs, 64 to 70. We do them for 3 generations of Camaro, even 55 Chevys. So this is the only one that requires any welding at all. The rest of them are all completely bolt-in.
We'll put our spacer in here and then put our shock through the shock.
Yeah, we offer a whole front. This car here has our front suspension on it. We have a series of front suspensions that we call the Pro Gs, and they definitely improve the handling characteristics of these cars. Again, for the Mustangs, Camaros, it's a whole bolt-in system, and again, it comes complete with Willwood brakes and, you know, single or double adjustable shocks.
Right, you got like Corvette brake systems, you got Willwood brake systems. Lots of different options. Front suspension, subframe connectors. This thing's going to handle like a dream when we're done.
Oh yeah, it's like a go-kart. This is the steering arm, and this is how we adjust toe in and toe out on this. Again, Tommy, we put these spacers in to allow these arms to articulate. Going around corners, everything gyrates on these cars.
This thing's going to handle 10 times better than it did when it came from the factory.
Oh, it's night and day. I mean, it basically turns these things into a kind of a Corvette with a Camaro body.
A guy can have a car, you got this thing laying around, and you want to go autocrossing. This is an inexpensive way to convert your car over, make it a good handling car, and go autocross on the weekends. Or if you got a street rod, lots of different applications.
Yeah, we sell these for street rods as well. I mean, yeah, in this particular case, you know, these cars are fairly affordable. It's not going to break the bank to buy one, and you can bolt one of these suspensions in. Totally changes the dynamics of the car. The other nice thing is that because it's an everyday street car, we're concerned about ride quality. This car actually rides nicer now than it did when it came from the factory. Yeah, well, it goes on the inside of that bolt, I think.
There we go.
All right.
When you're putting this all together, you want to get this bolt together. Certain things you're going to get tight, snug, but you don't want to do probably final tight till we get everything put together.
Yeah, we basically leave everything kind of loose, and then when it's all done, you want to torque everything down. We have about a 20-page installation guide that has a lot of pictures in it for the do-it-yourselfer, and you definitely want everything tight. The last thing you want is something falling off the suspension going down the road. We design these for the everyday guy, for the do-it-yourselfer. You don't have to have an engineering degree to install one of these things. You don't have to be a certified welder. I mean, basically, you can see what we have here, hand tools.
Yeah, hand tools,
you know,
that's pretty simple.
Well, they told me they got to keep it that way because a couple of dumb drag race drivers are going to be installing this thing, so I figured, okay.
Right here.
So yeah, it definitely helps to have two guys do it.
Yeah, and this thing's going to handle like a dream. We can go out, do a little road racing if we want, and if we're not, we're just driving on the street. Thing's going to handle better and ride better as well.
And I actually couldn't resist. I took this to Great Lakes Dragaway and made 7 or 8 passes on it. The other engineers weren't too thrilled about it, but I was having fun.
Well, I'll tell you what, Mike and I are going to finish tightening this up, put the sway bar on, drop this thing on the ground and see how it handles. We'll be back with more Performance TV right after this.
This edition of Performance TV is being brought to you by KBS Coatings. Rust stops here. TCAT Performance, game-changing sensor technology. Jiffy Tight, plumbing simplified. And by Racing Radios, the leader in racing communications worldwide.
Welcome back to Performance TV. We're still working on the 69 Nova, and earlier in the show, Kathy and Robert from Stage 8 Locking Fasteners put on a header with some Stage 8 locking fasteners. Well, Robert, I've asked you to stick around because to me, that's important, but there's more to the exhaust. There's the collector, and if this bolt's going to come loose, I sure don't want to have to crawl under the car to try to find it.
You're right. In fact, you probably won't find it because it'll come loose when you're on the highway, right?
That's right. You're going to be looking for that fastener. There's going to be an exhaust leak.
Right. And this is actually a high vibration area. We use a slightly different bolt here that's a grade 5 because of the flex that's required in a collector assembly.
Right. And one of the neat things about the Stage 8 locking fastener for the collector is it's an added feature. You don't have to have a nut. It comes with a nut kind of built into the system.
Yeah, it's actually a threaded tab. And if you look at it, when you put it onto the bolt itself, it'll flip around and hit the tube on the back, so you only have to wrench one side, which is a kind of nice feature.
Yeah, I like that. Less tools, less work. I like it. I'm into it. Let's go into the process of putting the bolts into the collector.
Okay.
Simple. It's basically the same thing. You just stick the bolt in.
You need to make sure you get the right size bolt. Collector bolts come anywhere from 1 inch to 3 inches long.
So now we're going to put this tab on.
Put the tab on.
Doesn't matter which direction because it's going to go into place. It's going to find itself.
That's right. It doesn't matter. It'll flip around and hit where it needs to hit.
Okay, so I start it here, go to tighten it up. It goes right up against the tube. You can see where it stops itself.
Exactly.
And then in order to do it, you just grab your ratchet. No wrench needed.
Just had it right there in your back pocket, huh?
Well, you know, keep the tools handy.
Here, let me
right,
put
kinda
this
got that
one on
started,
just
yeah.
finger tight on this side. That way we won't kink it too much.
We'll snug it down, pull it together.
Yeah, there you go. That's good.
Now, Stage 8 makes locking fasteners not just for exhaust, but they make them for all areas of the car, so many applications.
Boy, if you can get a threaded fastener there, we can keep it tight. That's
Right.
guaranteed.
And that's the key. You don't want this stuff coming loose.
No.
Not only is it we're here ignoring the exhaust leaks, and you don't want to lose the bolts. You want it to perform. And these are stuff that can't come loose.
That's absolutely right. All we have left now is to put the locking retainers on the front. Once that is done, you'll see on the back side here, the tab can only counter rotate. So it's only going to tighten itself.
Right.
You know, so that's what we want there. And on the front side, you got one of those retainers? Yeah. If we put this retainer right here, we'll clock it so it's right up against the tube. If this bolt tries to rotate, it'll hit the tube here in the back of the header, and then an E-clip goes in right to hold it on.
Yeah, that's going to hold that in place, not going to allow it to move.
Not going to allow it to move, and that's as tight and never going to fail.
Right, now this can only get tighter, it can't get looser.
That's right. And you know, it won't over tighten itself, obviously, because we're just talking about vibrations here. But vibrations really are the key to most counter rotation. And like any threaded fastener, 5 degrees of counter rotation cost you 50% of your clamp value. 5 out of 360 is very little.
That's very little, and something that is important to this. The last thing you want to do is just fall off going down the highway, like you said.
Or right in the middle of a race, yeah.
That's true. There's so many areas you can put these all over your car.
You know, we actually have locking fasteners for eyeglass screws. We make them that small. We've made custom one-ups for suspension pieces. We have turbos is probably our fastest growing line right now. Locking nuts for turbo assemblies.
Not only vibration, but also heat and expansion is going to hold stuff together.
That's it, and that turbo gets really hot. The difference with a turbo kit is you're going to get all stainless steel hardware because of the heat that's generated.
Right. It also looks pretty good too. I like the looks of it.
It looks nice. And even these bolts here, they're a grade 5 bolt, but we put a duplex nickel finish on it, so you get a nice look and they won't rust on you.
Now, the neat thing about this, Robert, is no Loctite needed. This is own lock.
It's actually an active mechanical locking fastener, so it's much sturdier than Loctite. You know, NASA comes to us, not Loctite, when they have a problem, because it's fail-safe. Now, the one thing I would recommend is slather it up with anti-seize. We are not dependent on the friction of the threads and the torque to keep the bolt tight. It's physically impossible for this bolt to loosen. You might as well slather it with anti-seize, so 4, 5, 6 years from now, you can pull it right out.
Yeah, you want to make it easy to uninstall because they're going to keep yourself tight.
That's it.
I'll tell you what, that's all we've got this week on Performance TV, but sure and check in next week. We'll have more.